Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I won't be very long. All the three esteemed gentlemen on the stage have said what I wanted to say. Sanaka in particular stole my speech. But I'd like to, of course, acknowledge them formally, the UN Resident Coordinator, the Deputy High Commissioner of Australia, and of course, our cyber food innovator, creator. And I must say that I'd like to acknowledge publicly his perseverance and indeed his fortitude. As was highlighted by Sanaka, that he had only 4 customers in 2018 for the first few months. And indeed, having that level of, that number of customers would have been actually, for many people, they would have actually closed shop. But he persevered with it. He kept on putting money into the particular business itself. And of course, through his perseverance and indeed his insight, and perhaps with a little bit of help as to what happened with COVID, he was able to partner with UN, with the assistance of Australian Finance, to be able to develop this particular app. There's a number of things that we can talk about this evening regarding the digital space, and indeed the exponential growth in that area, in particular because of COVID. I think the fundamental point, though, is that we have seen an enormous shift in the way that we do business, enormous shift in the way that we, for example, interact with each other, the types of services we want, how we want those services, and indeed who should deliver those services. There's some critical issues there. Parliament last year approved the national payment system for the Reserve Bank of Fiji. And currently that work is underway. And we should, God willing, by I think the latter part of this year, see the national payment system being put in place, which will allow a lot more transactions between a lot more parties take place in the financial system of Fiji. It brings about a lot more transparency. It brings about a lot more accountability. Of course, from government's perspective, we know who earns how much, makes it a lot easier to track money. In 2006, there was a World Bank report that stated that 1/3 of the Fijian economy was in the black. In other words, there were illegal dealings taking place, people dealing in cash that was not accounted for. I'm glad to say that we've actually shifted quite significantly away from this situation. But at the same time, by having a lot better accountability, etc., the corporate tax rates in Fiji significantly dropped. People in Fiji, you must remember, in 2007, if you earn more than $8,400, you actually pay tax. Then it was increased to about $8,600 or $8,800. A few years later, it went to $16,000. And today, nobody in Fiji pays tax, unless they're personal income tax I'm talking about, unless they earn more than $30,000 a year. Corporate tax used to be 33%. Today, it's 20%. If you're a listed company in Fiji, you pay a corporate tax of 10%. People that invest in the BPO sector have a 20-year tax-free holiday. People who, for example, come to Fiji and want to develop apps, there's also a tax holiday for them too. Because government has, in the past number of years, invested quite significantly in the ICT space. Vodafone M-Pesa today is most readily available. Today, 95% of Fijians actually have good, stable network coverage, which has allowed financial institutions like we have the CEO of FDB here, where his loans are now actually disbursed over M-Pesa. Now, that was unheard of a few years ago, that a farmer who's applied for a loan through FDB, maybe $5,000 or what have you, can actually get that money paid to them on his mobile phone. It's instantaneous delivery. During COVID, when we had rolled out the unemployment benefits, the 360, the 2 rounds of 360, 2 rounds of $50 and $90, not a single cent was actually paid in cash. It was all paid on the money wallets. But more importantly, not a single person had to go and queue anywhere, go and form a line at some government department or ministry or some department or DO's office, wherever they were. They simply applied on the phone. It took less than 3 minutes, and then they got paid on the phone. In excess of $200 million was disbursed in this manner. So you can see where we actually have come from and where we've gone to. And indeed, there's a lot more opportunities in that space. So we have seen an enormous transition And we must continuously capitalize on that. As was highlighted, by Majid, and like to also again acknowledge his perseverance. We've had to, this event we've planned for a couple of days, and now we finally got everybody, and we finally got Sanaka to be here. But the point is that we have now seen that we cannot, in fact, go back. There are some people who still need to be brought along with us. And one of those, and I can openly say this, are the banks, the mainstream financial banks in Fiji. A lot of them have been very reluctantly participating in this space. The requirements to have a payment gateway was extremely onerous. And if you just remember a couple of years ago, just to get a payment gateway would cost somebody $25,000, $30,000 just to get the payment gateway. Deposits now $25,000 security. It is actually ridiculous. We have so many Fijians who live offshore. We have people in the British Army, we have people working in the Middle East, a lot of nurses work in the Middle East, we have Fijians who've migrated to Australia, New Zealand, west coast of North America, to Vancouver, and various other places. They want to be able to buy things for their family members here. They want to, and I'm sure some of them may have ordered food even from overseas if they get onto the app, to surprise their family members. We should be able to buy them a cake. If I'm in the British Army and it's my mother's birthday tomorrow, I should be able to order the cake from the local cake store in Nambua so they could deliver the cake to her. Or even hardware, if my family member, gets some damage to the house and they need, 10 sheets of corrugated tin or 4x2 timber and what have you, concrete, they should be able to order that online. Now, we've seen some hardware companies do a little bit of that. We need to do more of that. And again, it's a question of capitalizing on that. Unfortunately, so far, a lot of people are paying through cash. We like to get more money being paid through, whether it's credit cards or debit cards, etc., because that makes things a lot easier and people don't actually handle cash. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're in a very good space, and I'd like to thank all the development partners. UN, of course, has been the implementing agency. The Australians have provided funding. We're also partnering with them in the BPO space. There's some very exciting discussions around the BPO sector, and indeed some of the companies that we currently, in fact, I was just telling the two gentlemen the story about the reason why I was slightly late, because we're trying to negotiate a particular deal with a very large company that wants to set up, have a few thousand jobs in a few years' time in the BPO sector. So these are exciting times, but at the bottom end of it, of course, I shouldn't say bottom end, but on the other hand of it, obviously, is what we require as Fijians living in Fiji also. Whether it's delivering food, or whether it's, I was just told that Majid also delivers medicine and groceries. You can actually deliver on his app, or he delivers through his app. So again, we've seen that it helps people. We've seen in many countries, for example, people who are on social welfare or people who are very elderly, they have food delivered to them through the various apps that can actually become the norm for them. So rather than them getting on the bus or hiring a taxi to go and get a particular service, that particular service or product is actually brought to you. And government would love to partner with the sort of mature environment in the digital space. So I'd like to thank everybody for your participation. You've all become ambassadors of this cyber food app. Please go and tell everybody else. I don't have the app as yet, but hopefully tonight I'll put the app on my phone and we can all participate in that. I want to once again congratulate Majid for his perseverance. His good wife is there too. I'd also like to acknowledge her because, as a family they've been very much at it. And tonight, of course, is a culmination of the fortitude, of the perseverance, and it's obviously paid off. And I'm sure they look forward to everybody's support. Vinaka, thank you.
The app, I invite our key speakers to be the first 3 to officially download the Cyberfood app.